What if your memory was your enemy? What if, not even asleep, you were safe from the monsters of the past? In this video, I'll deep dive into one of the heaviest analog horrors that I've seen here on YouTube, Sins of the Past. But first, I cannot start the video without saying thank you to our Patreon support Pawn, and I'm Sir Chris. I explore the internet and I make videos about it. Let's go. Sins of the Past begins with the video interference. In it, we can hear a conversation that takes place on February 20th of 1977 between Bill Settle and a mysterious character called King. Bill wanted to find out what his daughter, Charlotte, was dreaming about and who was the entity that was controlling her dreams, in which for that, Bill and King had to go down into Charlotte's brain. Then, we come across our first mystery.
Please don't kill me. Whatever you want.
Yeah, it's gonna be one of those, so buckle up. Charlotte's first dream was a playroom with inflatables. In her pocket, she finds a flashlight that made noise when pointed at objects. When pointing it at the void of her dream, she ends up seeing a glimpse of Tia for a few seconds, and now she was in an arcade area. Agitated, Charlotte says that she couldn't bear another dream like that, and that's why she needs to wake up. Then, an incomprehensible red text appears, which one of the comments pointed out. "Why would you do that? Don't you wonder what happened to Tia?" In which she responds, "Of course I do," it hits away at me. Then, keep going. As she walks closer to one of the machines, she finds her township card, which is an area that will be revealed later. She keeps the card, and when she turns around, one of the props ends up showing a portal in which Charlotte enters. The red text said that Charlotte's father will wake up soon, so he gives her a present.
You're gonna die too, aren't you? I can feel it. It's okay. We'll be reborn together. I never be alone again. I'll keep holding on to you forever.
And with this, Charlotte gets the rose, and the dream ends. Meanwhile, another sentence appears, but this time for Bill Settle, since he was the one talking to King. "King is gone, it's just me now." This new entity ends up confirming that there were two entities that controlled Charlotte's dreams, King and another unnamed entity who we will discover later. Without wasting more time, the television tells him the following. "This is a tale brought on by your own sins. I better not see you cry now." And the episode ends with the date of February 1st of 1977, where the teddy bear asks Charlotte why she continues to dream, since she cannot bring back those she lost. With that, a choice is given, and Charlotte still prefers to keep dreaming, maybe as a way to cope with the pain, even if it was the wrong choice. In Township.mp4, we see the perspective of Millie, a private investigator who was investigating a cold case related to the previous establishment seen in the previous episode. To do so, she ends up accessing the website of Township. On this website, she ends up clicking on buttons that redirect her to strange pages, especially in the view of a supposed client. At the customer support, Millie ends up speaking to an unknown employee who gives her information about the company, such as the fact that Township is going bankrupt due to the incident in Windsor. As Millie asks questions, she continues to explore the website, where she ends up arriving at a secret page, which not even the employee knew. Something about Township is totally off. One of those pages led to a paranormal topic, more specifically about umbras, a spirit of a dead person who either possesses an object of sentimental value or follows a specific concept, and as they eventually evolve, they try to possess other objects around them. In another page, Millie ends up facing a login requirement that makes her ask for an account, and it led to a page that had more information about 3 characters, 2 that we already knew, and 1 new character. Charlotte was tall, loud, annoying, and a bully. She was a child who was only interested in helping her family achieve their goals, especially her sister, Tia. Tia was shy, inconsistent, insecure, she was bullied, and was born with a visual impairment, and that's why Charlotte takes care of her most of the time. And finally we have Ruthie, Charlotte's crush, who had a tragic childhood, since her brother, King, killed both of her parents, and she was forced to defend herself and execute him with a to the head. Millie, upon returning to Tia's page, she clicks on a photo that takes her to a page that had the lifeless body of Tia, which on her face had a link that showed a cryptic video. I believe there's more than one victim. Everything we saw starts to make a little bit more sense in the third entry, Clarity. Clarity begins with Tia, who shows us what happened the day that she went missing through an incomplete diagram of her kitchen. That morning, she ends up falling asleep and rushing off to theater class. When Tia gets there, she ends up falling and ends up being made fun of, which that makes her go back home. After that, an important scene appears, which I will show you in a bit. But first, on the morning of November 16th of 1975, Charlotte ends up calling Ruthie, since Tia hadn't come back home since yesterday. The day before, after Tia had been ridiculed, she comes back home and tells Charlotte what happened, and an argument between the two happened. Since Tia was fed up with Charlotte not letting her be independent, even though it wasn't done with bad intentions, which results in Tia leaving the house, never to be seen again. Almost 3 months later, on the morning of February 6th of 1976 to be more precise, Charlotte ends up walking to Harmony's bedroom, her mother, only to find her lifeless body. And as she looks at the body, a cut message appears, which I agree with most of what Caleb Finn put in. I stared at her dead cold feet for hours, before finally calling for help. When the police arrived, it was chalked down to nothing but depression from losing her youngest child. Charlotte wanted to keep the teddy bear. Unable to do anything else, she failed. Charlotte was the one who let this happen. Charlotte was the one who let Tia die, and Nina. After this traumatic incident, Nina, a new character, shows an interrogation between Charlotte and the police at the time that Tia had disappeared. That after back and forth, the interrogation ends with Charlotte confessing about the argument that happened between the two, in which the scene begins to destroy itself and a strange sentence appears, which makes no sense to show you now. With all of this, Act 2 begins from the perspective of Harmony and what led to her taking her own life. One afternoon, Harmony was playing an arcade machine at Township. This machine eventually ends up being altered by an Umbra, which shows Harmony what really happened to Tia. After the argument on November 15th of 1975, Tia ends up coming to Township to get her head out of it. There, Louis Eden, an employee who already knew her, ends up asking her if she was okay, since she was alone. Tia ends up confessing what happened, in which Lois ends up luring her to the back room to kill Tia's saddle. But before that happens, Tia says something crucial. Isn't that where Nina died? Let's recap to see if we are all in the same boat. In this episode, we can see that the mystery is involved in the death of Tia's saddle and Nina, and the strange connection that these homicides have with the Township establishment. After the argument on November 15th of 1975, Louis Eden, an employee who already knew Tia, ends up finding her alone, and he lures her into the back room to kill her, for a reason that we do not know for now. However, do you remember the hidden message I told you about? Well, it said the following. In the same room my father killed you, Tia. Louis Eden, Nina's father, killed Tia's saddle. But why? And what about Bill, Nina, and King? We'll only find out if we continue. Beginnings start in the vision and thoughts of Tia, who was being dragged by Lois.
I haven't felt my legs in a while now. It is cold after all. Can't we stop by my house to get some sweatpants and a coat? Why do you keep whispering to yourself, Lois?
Only to be soon dropped into a grave alongside another body, Nina's corpse. And from here, the episode really begins. It begins with the main incident of the story, on September 14th of 1975, Nina's birthday, in which the group, Jay, Nina, Charlotte, and Ruthie, decide to play Truth or Dare. After Nina asks Charlotte an intimate question, Charlotte, in revenge, challenges Nina to spend 30 minutes in the back room in the dark. Later on, we will realize that Nina is a person who likes to push people's buttons, in which we realize that Nina dies in the back room. But now how, Harmony doesn't tell us. But in compensation, Harmony shows us Charlotte playing a game on December 26th of 1976, in which there, she ends up meeting a knight named King, who after a little conversation, he shows Charlotte the trauma that Ruthie went through, where after finding the corpses of her parents, her brother, King, tries to kill her. But Ruthie ends up stabbing, and we can assume that she ended up shooting him, as we can see on the website. But on January 15th of 1977, something happens to the rest of the group. That day, after sneaking in the arcade to play, they end up falling asleep and are kidnapped by a masked man who takes them to an unknown area. Of the three, Jay and Ruthie wake up, and the masked man forces Jay to kill Ruthie. As friends, Jay tries to save them by pretending he was going to kill Ruthie, but in reality, he throws a rock at the masked man's face to try to knock him unconscious, but that almost gets Charlotte killed, and the masked man makes a second proposal. So Jay, with no choice, ends up killing Ruthie. And here is where I show you the last scene I saved. The masked man is Lois Eden. I say this because he's wearing the same clothes as the man who dragged Tia, and even has the same hair color. But now why, you will see. With all of this, Lois flees and leaves them behind to die, in which Charlotte, in critical condition, ends up sparing Jay, who was unconscious on the snow, and ends up limping while bleeding to the nearest town, where there, she ends up finding a television, which torments her before attacking her, leaving her without an eye and unconscious, while an ambulance can be heard in the background. All of this brings us to Illusion of Choice, which takes place on the same day as the previous events, or as the description says, Charlotte's first dream, while she is hospitalized. Now, she's in a weird state where she wakes up, spends some time awake, only to shut down again to the dream world. Meanwhile, in her first dream, when she looks back, she sees a star which tells her the following: "You don't have a choice. You don't get to selfishly die here. You will know the truth." And for last, we have the entry, Sins of the Past. In it, Charlotte claims that there is someone with her in all her dreams. Every time she thinks she's going to wake up, she ends up in another nightmare. At the same time, in these dreams, she ends up seeing people who have already died. So much so, that in one of the dreams, she finds a grave in the snow with 2 people present. But all those dreams end the same way.
Every dream is there. Always there. I know it's her there. It's always you. Nina.
Going back to the website that Millie accessed, we can get more hints about the lore. Today, the website has nothing on it except the cryptic phrase. But 8 months ago, we could see Nina with the following title: "Did you know humbers can only show off what they were present for?" By double clicking on it, we can put together the full audio, along with an interesting sentence. "I always found it an interesting game to press at these buttons. It's not my fault if you're that easy to push, you know."
Oh, it's you. Bill.
Don't call me that, kid. Mr. Settle works just fine. What are you doing here anyway? The party ain't ended yet, has it? I gotta get back to work, so buzz off, kid.
I'll be here for a while. I'm here for a day after all. What about you? Hiding away from the party with... Oh, no way. Are you smoking? I thought you quit. Show a little follow-through.
But on the third time, we get the last piece. "You don't need audio this time. You know what he did to me. It's obvious, isn't it?" Bill Settle, Tia's father, killed Nina Eden. The analog horror is still being developed, so there will still be pieces that won't make much sense, at least for now. But Sins of the Past began through the tragedy of September 14th of 1975, on Nina's birthday, where in an innocent game, she ends up being challenged to stay in the back room in the dark for 30 minutes. Inside, Nina finds Bill, Tia's father who also worked at the township, who was smoking in secret, even though he said that he would quit. Afraid of being fired, and angry that Nina is annoying him, Bill kills Nina with a screwdriver. Through a page on the website, we can see that on that same day, we can assume that Bill flees without being seen, and the people who were present at the party end up investigating the noise, only to find a crime scene. Being one of those people, Lois Eden, Nina's father, and another township employee. All of this leads to an investigation being carried out, but apparently, they still haven't found the culprit. Lois eventually becomes suspicious and discovers that Bill was the culprit, either because of the smell of the cigarettes in the back room, or because he had gone to take a break. Since the smoker who says he's going to quit, he's the one who's most likely to be smoking in secret. And since Nina knew he was going to quit, Lois also had to know. And 2 months later, Lois takes advantage of the fact that he is alone to get his revenge. Months pass, and Tia's Umbra ends up altering the machine that Harmony was playing in Township to show her what really happened to her daughter. And coincidentally, after knowing who was the culprit, she takes her own life. I will say that Lois killed her and make it look like it was a since now she knew too much. Since when we go back to the Harmony's bedroom text, it says that it was simply shocked down to nothing but depression, which made me a little bit suspicious, but sadly I can't prove it. Not a lot seems to happen during the year of 1976, so much so that the next info that we have is on December 26th, with Charlotte playing another game in which she finds King's Umbra, that eventually reveals Ruthie's past, and 19 days later, the rest of the group ends up being kidnapped by Lois. Lois forces Jay to kill Ruthie, in which Jay almost gets Charlotte killed. That after all the damage she suffered, she ends up being hospitalized and considered quote-unquote dead, as said by Detective Millie, where she is now trapped in a cycle where she wakes up, falls asleep out of nowhere, and has strange dreams. So much so that this makes Bill talk to King's Umbra to see who was controlling Charlotte's dreams, which was obviously King and Nina. I know, it's a bit of a stretch, but this is my theory. It still has some loose pieces, like, why does the company have a page dedicated to Umbras? Maybe Windsor is just a town that suffers with the paranormal, and the story is far from over, but we are left in the dark for now. If you watch this video until the end, YouTube really thinks that you will enjoy this one also. Thank you guys so much for the support on the last video. It was crazy, especially for something quote-unquote new for me. Thank you so much for watching, and take care, my friend.